All right. Time for the favorite 11. 11
Uh,
questions. You know the deal. You ready to rock and roll?
yeah, sure.
As a Maryland native, I try and tailor certain questions to the guests where they're from. You talked about your stepdad was worked on a boat crab fishing. What
Hmm.
is the favorite way to prepare a crab dish for you?
Steamed. Well, I've so I got diagnosed with celiac 2 years ago. So crab cakes are kind of out the window, at least as I know them and as I enjoyed them. And fried too, fried crabs, fried soft crabs. I always loved eating soft crabs. Steamed, I've always like preferred steamed the hard crabs the most. Steamed with Old Bay seasoning, or I have to look and see if Old Bay's gluten. I imagine it's gluten free. I don't think they're like sneaking any wheat or powder or anything in it. I haven't had crabs since before the pandemic. It's been that long. It's now right now I'm feeling very sad. But yeah, steamed hard crabs. I can sit there and eat them for 3 hours. And I love picking them. I love the whole thing. I love talking, as you know. So I like sitting there at a table making a huge mess and talking to people while I suck crab meat out of a crab.
Your favorite Maryland sports moment growing up, the state of Maryland, not necessarily the University of Maryland, but Maryland related sports team growing up, your favorite sports moment?
Growing up or my whole life.
Oh, your whole life. We can throw that in there.
The Capitals winning the Stanley Cup in 2018. Yeah, that was the biggest. That was the biggest. And then maybe probably Terrapins winning the National Basketball Championship in 2002. That was really big. That was awesome.
Juan Dixon. Remember
Juan
that?
Dixon, yeah, yeah. Juan Dixon was the man on that team. And then yeah, he was something else. I actually had a Juan Dixon jersey up until recently. But yeah, so probably yeah, the Capitals. The Capitals winning the Stanley Cup is number one. Absolutely. As a Caps fan, people who were a Caps fan their whole life, like me, it's been a terrible journey. I mean, just like heartbreak all the time. I mean, how many times were we looking like the best team in the league, and then we could lose in the first or second round, and it would always go 7 games. Everything always goes seven, and we'd lose in the seventh game. And yeah, so the Capitals for sure.
Your favorite non Maryland sports moment in your life?
Ha, I bet you could guess this. Super Bowl 25. And then the second favorite would be the NFC Championship game before that
I thought you were going to
against the
flip it the other way
49ers.
around. I thought you were going to say the NFC title game in 1990.
That was yeah, that's yeah, that game was amazing. I still watch that every once in a while on YouTube. I watched that one probably more than the Super Bowl. But the Super Bowl was because it was like different. The Giants won with a field goal and won, and they won because the other team missed a field goal on the other. But back then, a 47 yarder
47-yard run
on
over. Yeah.
47 yarder on grass back then. The ball was a little different for kicking, I think, and the kickers didn't have the science that they have now. I guess people would do crazy things like pack their foot into a shoe that was two sizes too small for their kicking foot,
Or go
or go
barefoot.
barefoot.
Yeah.
Go barefoot, which was always funny. But yeah, that was never 47 yards back then was maybe a 40% chance of making it. Most kickers between 40 and 50 yards were about 40% back then. Yeah, but that was my favorite moment was the Super Bowl 25. And then the second favorite would be the national NFC championship game.
You say you watch the NFC title game every now and then. One of my favorite calls of all time. There will be no three-peat.
Yeah.
That's
That
some
might be
all.
the best. That might be as far as games go. That game was incredible. It was just, I mean, it was so dramatic. Of course, Roger Craig fumbling the ball, and Joe Montana.
I just love stuff like nowadays things you could never get away with just because there's so much attention paid to body language and you've got people in the coaches boxes with binoculars looking at coaches. So like when the Giants ran the fake punt in the fourth quarter, like
Ah,
you
great
watch Bill
call.
Parcells and he gives it
Mhm.
away essentially. Like he looks at the Giants getting stopped on third down and then he goes like straight to his headset and like starts
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
into his
yeah.
headset. And if you pay attention, Like now it looks obvious, but
Nowadays
in the
it's
moment,
done.
like you would never ever
Yeah.
see that happen nowadays. They would never give it away that obviously.
No.
And it's clear that like nobody was paying attention to like spying Bill Parcells on the sideline to see his body language to give that away that they were going to run the fake punt.
Yeah. And Bill Parcells himself was like kind of the bad guy on the team, because nobody liked playing for him. He was a taskmaster, master. I mean, he was a tough cookie. Like nobody really liked to play for that guy. And he had his little weird wearing the same pants all the time, but don't have a button and all that. But yeah, that game was probably the best game. Like
We're
just
running up
Demond.
quite a list of things, Nate, that 99% of the people watching and listening to this podcast will go straight over their heads. So we're referencing there will be no three-peat. The fake punt, the 47-yard field goal, Scott Norwood. We've thrown in Henry Rowan Gardner and Steve Nebraska.
Henry Rowan Gardner, that was a good one. Yeah.
or Rutabaga, as
Yeah.
the Cubs manager called him in the movie.
He got locked in the cage. That guy, yeah.
I wonder how many of these things people are going to be actually bothering to go look up on Google, or what the hell are these guys talking about? Henry Rowan Gardner.
Right. Maybe, yeah. There you go. Hopefully, people watch that movie. It was one of the greatest child movies ever.
Your favorite cricket ground experience that you've had as a player or as a fan, whether that's at Church Street Park or somewhere else?
So, as a fan, Church Street Park, when Steven Taylor and let me say Ali Khan was in the middle with him, running with him. When he chased 22 and when they needed 22 to win in that last over, and he did it in 5 balls against Canada. That was amazing. That whole week was incredible. It was one of I think about that my favorite episode you've done so far was with Mark Stallman, and it was because of how fun it was to reminisce when he's talking about that week. How great it was, and like thinking back about it, it was so much fun. It was amazing. But yeah, that was my favorite cricket moment as a fan. As a player, I took 4 wickets one time and got man of the match and it was like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a good cricketer, so I don't have too many of these moments. So it stands out. Like there was a team that was chasing us down, and we were like, our backs were to the wall. It wasn't looking good for us. And then I took 4 wickets, and I could have taken a hat trick if I had just listened to my captain, who was like, do you want me to bring the deep point in to the inner circle? And I was like, no, may as well just play it safe still. Cause at the time the game was still kind of in question. And then the guy like just flubbed the ball directly to point, just plopped it right over and I was like, he would have been there to catch that ball. I would have had a hat trick. But yeah, that was fun. It was just fun to help my team out, all the guys that I really like and have a great time and care about. And it's always fun to like be the guy that gets to get man of the match. So that's, as far as a player, that was one of the few good moments.
Your favorite cricketer of all time?
That's a tricky one. The first cricketer I really liked was Moeen Ali. Was the first guy I like kind of like really like that I was like, I love that guy. So he might be my favorite cricketer of all time. That's not North American. I don't want to say who my favorite North American. I don't want to say that because I write about these guys so much and things like that. I don't want to say that. But probably Moeen, my favorite cricketer who doesn't play for USA currently, or Canada currently, I should say. Moeen and Hayden Walsh Jr. are my favorite. And Hayden used to play for USA. So, but yeah, favorite 2 guys who aren't currently playing for USA or in the USA system or Canada would be Moeen and Hayden Walsh Jr. Both of those guys.
Your favorite non-cricket athlete of all time?
Jeff Hostetler, probably. Cal Ripken Jr., Rod Langway, Joe Montana. I loved Joe Montana. Eddie Murray.
Hold on a second. How are you a Joe Montana fan and a Giants fan? This is not kosher.
So before I started liking the Giants, I just liked Joe Montana because he was the best player in the 80s, But yeah, probably Jeff Hostetler is probably my favorite because of the great memories I have as a kid cheering for him. Him and Cal Ripken probably are my 2 favorite.
So what was going through your mind then as a Joe Montana fan turned Giants fan when Leonard Marshall comes off the end and nearly
I didn't like
decapitates
that he
him.
got hurt. He got killed. That was one of the most brutal hits. Literally. I mean, you can't name 10 hits in NFL history that were that visually brutal. Like I mean, it looked terrible. I didn't like that he got hurt, obviously, but I liked that helped their chances of winning. I mean, it really did. Even though Steve Young is on the bench, I mean, you know,
As a Giants fan, and again, family season ticket holder for 48 years, going to games growing up, in Giant Stadium, and even the few games I've been to in MetLife Stadium, where they run the sizzle reel 5 minutes before the teams walk out of the tunnel, whatever,
it's
and
got to be there.
get the
Yeah,
fans fired up. The two staples that have been in every single sizzle reel video for the Giants every year, every time I've ever gone to a game, the ones that never ever got taken out of the tape. Leonard Marshall taking out Joe Montana and Mark Bavaro carrying Ronnie Lott 20 yards downfield on his back. And
oh,
watching the Mark Bavaro clip every single time without fail gives me goosebumps. I get so fired up watching that clip. And then I'm like, let's go. They can replace in the video, they can reduce the number of LT clips in favor of Strahan or Tuck or some of the other defenders that have risen up over the years. They can reduce some of the Phil Simms montage in favor of Eli Manning or Kerry Collins before Eli Manning when Collins took the Giants to the Super Bowl. Some of that stuff varies over the years. The two things that never, ever, ever change: Leonard Marshall taking out Joe Montana and Mark Bavaro carrying Ronnie Lott.
if they don't have the OJ Anderson wind up forearm,
No,
they got to have that. That's the one. That's probably the scene from that whole season that I think about them that like runs in my mind. That and Hostetler not having the ball stripped by
Bruce
what's his
Smith.
name? Bruce Smith, who how do you stop him from taking, how do you pull your hand away from this dude's got his full hand around you?
But Nate, how is that going to fire somebody up if they're five
It's not
minutes
gonna fire
before
someone
kickoff?
up. Like he saved the team 5 points. Like that,
I know you love hot Sour, but that's pushing it a little bit to expect that to be
that
the
was
sizzle reel.
tough. That was a tough play to watch in real time. You realize later how important that was, that he didn't lose the ball, but he tripped on Otis Anderson. He tripped on he as he's going back into his drop. Otis Anderson steps back into his drop back, and that's how he fell. But yeah, the OJ wind up is like, to me, the perfect moment.
All right, your favorite place to eat out on tour or away from home? So outside of Morrisville, outside of Maryland, where's your go-to stop?
Right now, it's anything that's gluten free, and I love Mexican food. So if I find like an old Mexican joint somewhere, I'm happy. I love Mexican food. That's my favorite. Mexican food. I love Indian food too. So yeah, Mexican food. If I can find an old Mexican joint, so like not old, but like family run Mexican joint, then I'm happy.
And what's your go-to menu item that you can find that's gluten-free on a Mexican menu?
Corn shell tacos. Like I like chicken tinga tacos are my favorite. So like the soft corn tacos.
Now, I used to make this question the Coke or Pepsi question, but I think I've had to decide to retire that because it was getting quite one-sided as much as that pleased me.
Okay.
So, your favorite beverage of any kind?
Cherry Coke.
Cherry
Well,
Coke,
of any kind, so they can also have alcohol in it. No, I don't want to sound like I'm
or
about
actually alcohol or juices. Not everybody's a drinker.
my favorite soda is Cherry Coke. And to answer the other question, Coke over Pepsi. But yeah, probably my favorite drinks are lemonade or Cherry Coke. Those two. I love both of them. I don't drink it as much as, but if I go to Five Guys, I always have to have Cherry Coke because it has the special magic machine that makes it whatever mixture you want. I
Those
got to
things
get
are
that.
amazing. That they've got like
They're
100 different
incredible.
flavors of
And all
soda.
I want is Cherry Coke.
Because it used to be, before those magic fountain machines came into existence, you just
Yeah,
had the six options, Coke, Sprite,
right,
Diet Coke, Barks, maybe
right.
one or
Yeah,
two other things, Dr. Pepper. Now,
right.
and Cherry Coke, you're never going to find Cherry Coke in your standard soda fountain.
Most places don't have Cherry Coke. So the fact that it has Cherry Coke is great. But this is one of those things we're going to tell our kids when we grow up. It'll be like, we used to have to watch TV. If we had a show that we wanted to watch, we had to be sitting there at 10 a.m. to watch the cartoon we wanted on Saturday. And if we went to Fuddruckers, we had to mix up our flavors. We didn't have this magic red machine that pumped out whatever soda you wanted. Like
I'd like to meet the guy who has the patent on that. The thing is extraordinary.
it's amazing. It's incredible. I would hate to have to change all the bags all the time, but it is pretty cool. I bet the back of the house where all those lines go and everything connects to a different box full of syrup. I bet that there's just a massive heap of syrup right there. I mean, just boxes.
Your favorite pizza topping.
Pepperoni.
Your favorite movie of all time.
I loved Star Wars growing up, but probably my favorite. There's two movies that I can't change if I've come across them when I'm flipping. I can't change, and that's Ghostbusters and Back to the Future. But I really liked Edward Scissorhands a lot because that was just a really cool movie. So those are probably my favorites, and then Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back and Back to the Future Part 2 and Karate Kid Part 3. When I was growing up, we had HBO in our house, and you could like count on those three movies being on a loop on HBO every single day, pretty much. Not the
Yeah.
first Star Wars, not Return of the Jedi, not Back to the Future 1 or 3, but Part 2, The Empire Strikes Back, and Karate Kid Part 3, not 1 or 2, Part 3, all three of those on a loop nonstop.
Yeah, I love Ghostbusters. Probably if I had to choose one, it would be Ghostbusters. Probably, I loved that movie. Still do.
What's your take on the relaunch Afterlife? Did you take that in?
Haven't seen it. I don't know. So I'm like I like the movies that I liked when I was a kid. Whenever something relaunches or something like that, I really just don't care because it's not going to be anywhere near the same.
Well, to me, it just
It's like
shows again, like now, the Matrix, the newest edition of the Matrix, and some of these other things. It just shows to me, like the lack of creativity and the lack of
I'm
ingenuity in Hollywood nowadays. Like
I
I haven't been
yeah
to a cinema in like ages because nothing
yeah.
interests me. All the
Same with
ideas are
me.
just dumb.
Like Scorsese was talking about that, and he's dead right. It's like I don't care about comic book films. I'm 41 years old. It's like that stuff mattered to me a lot. If I wish they had made that stuff in 1994, you know, I would have gone to it all the time. I would have loved it. But like now it's I'm kind of just like I don't care about comic book movies. I just want to watch a good movie. That's what I want to see is a good movie. Yeah, so I mean I agree with him. Like I don't want someone to pander to like my nostalgia. I don't want that. Like I've got my nostalgia and I'll watch if I want to be nostalgic, I'll watch the thing that I'm nostalgic about. I won't watch something else that's trying to exploit that.
If
You
you want
know?
nostalgia, you're going to YouTube to find the NFC Championship game
That's
1990.
right. That's right. Yeah, right.
All right, last but not least, your favorite show to binge watch: Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Paramount Plus, streaming service du jour, DVD box set. What's the show you use to fill the time when you've got plenty of it?
I love watching TV with my wife. So it's pretty much whatever we get into, I'm happy to watch it. I think I loved Breaking Bad a lot. Game of Thrones. I loved those shows quite a bit. There hasn't been anything. I think the first one that my wife and I watched together was probably my favorite show and that was Carnival that was on HBO. It was like when we first got together, we would watch that. And I thought that show was great up until the last episode. And then it was like, oh my God, they killed it. But that show was fun. I loved looking forward to watching that with her. So probably that well, really my favorite thing to binge is going on YouTube and watching old football games or old cricket games or something. I like the other day I watched San Francisco versus Cincinnati, that second Super Bowl. I watched the whole thing on YouTube the other day just because I just want to watch it again. So that's probably what I like to binge is old sports games.